Welcome to Rock Your Reinvention, where I help high-achieving career women like you get unstuck, make your corporate exit strategy, and successfully transition to your next chapter. Hi, I'm your host, Karen Freeland, a certified life coach and corporate exit strategist. Whether you want to start a business, become a speaker, or something else, I'm here to give you the tools and strategies to shift your mindset, build your confidence, and take bold actions so you can rock your reinvention. Ready? Let's go. Well, hello, and welcome back to Rock Your Reinvention. I am joined today by Linda Ugelow. She is a speaker, author, and transformational speaking coach for visionaries who want to make a positive impact in the world. And I know that you're one of those people. She's helped hundreds of new and seasoned professionals get comfortable on stage and on camera. Her book, Delight in the Limelight, Overcome Your Fear of Being Seen and Realize Your Dreams, which I've had the pleasure of reading, helps readers discover their freedom and self-expression so that you can get your big ideas out there, make a difference, and have fun doing it. Welcome to the show, Linda.
I'm so glad to be here, Karen. Thanks.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you wanted to be on the show. So thanks for your interest.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. I love this book. Thank you so much. You were so generous and kind to gift me a copy so that I could ask some more thoughtful questions, having a little bit more of a peek under the hood. And you talk about this process of face, embrace, and erase the fear. And I love that because we all have fear, whether we recognize it or not. So talk to me about how you came up with this process and how you get to the root causes of fear within your clients.
I think that one of the most common messages we get, especially as entrepreneurs, and even if we work in a company, is just do it. If you've got some fear, just ignore it. Pretend that it's not there. Feel the fear and do it anyway. And, or, there are other things like pretend your fear is excitement. Mel Robbins is big on that. That's been around for a number of years too. And in truth, I believed all these things because that's all that was out there. And Google was this, magical place where you could find everything. And that's what I found when I personally was struggling with being afraid to be on camera. And I also had been very well aware of my fear of speaking on stage, speaking up. And this is for most of my life. So around the time I'm talking about in terms of reinvention, it's about late 50s, around 60.
Okay.
Just to give you a little time frame there. And so one of the things I had done when I became a coach and went into the online space, it was about 2015, was once I came out of the program and I built my website, well, you got to get people to know that you exist. And my thought of marketing was to do video. So I took a bunch of video classes, still felt kind of awkward, but I thought, okay, whatever, just put it out there. And my video mentor said, there's this amazing new app that's going to change the online space forever. This new technology called live streaming. Hello. Everybody does it now, but then it was completely novel. And the other thing that was being said was you got to get on daily to build your following. The app was called Periscope. Some people might remember Periscope, some may not. It was really, really big for about a year before Facebook took on the technology also, and then other companies began to incorporate it. So during those first months of the app, I thought, I'm going to be an early adopter. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it scared because believe me, it was terrifying to see people coming in on my phone screen from all over the world. And here I was just trying to get comfortable on camera. And suddenly I was like in this big public space. Yep. But I figured, experience leads to confidence. And if I do it every day, a couple of weeks, I'll be fine. In the meantime, I was doing everything I could to just calm myself down, meditation, deep breathing, power poses, affirmations, anything I could think of. And every day before I would have to get on Periscope, I'd do all these things. And the weeks went by. I'm doing it every day. I'm very religious about it, very committed. I get to about week 10. So that's about 75. my
Wow.
heart is still racing. And I'm considering this. I'm thinking, why doesn't this all, I mean, 75 days of doing this, shouldn't I be calm, confident, relaxed, masterful? But I wasn't. I just felt anxious.
Hmm.
And I realized that either something's wrong with me, which is possible, or there's something wrong with this advice. There's something wrong with this picture that the idea that experience is going to lead to confidence.
Yeah, that's powerful.
And I also realized that managing the fear I was able to get on every day,
Hmm.
but it took up probably 45 minutes of my day just to get in that mind space that I could feel relaxed to do this. And how sustainable was that going to be?
Right.
I realized I don't want to manage my fear. I want to get rid of it.
Hmm.
So the first thing I decided to do was to close my eyes and ask, what is this fear? If the fear could talk, what would it say? And what came back was, you're going to be attacked. I thought, attacked? Where does this come from? And immediately I remembered my two older sisters chasing me around the dining room table, trying to kick me in the shins, saying, shut up, calling me stupid. And then all of a sudden I had, people talk about aha moments.
Hmm.
This wasn't an aha. This was a duh. Of course, I'm not comfortable being the center of attention, because when did they attack me? Whenever mom put me in the center of attention, saying, Linda's such a good girl. Why can't you girls be more like Linda? And I'm like, thanks, mom.
Right. Now you got a target on your back.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And it just made so much sense. And then I thought, oh, well, maybe this fear of speaking, this fear that we have, is very little to do with like you and I doing this podcast right now and the people who are going to listen. I mean, we're lucky if people listen.
Right.
They're not here to criticize. They're not here to be angry or throw tomatoes at us. Nobody has time for that. They only listen if they like it and if they, like what we're saying. So all of this fear likely originates in the past. So
Hmm.
that led me into doing a lot of combing out of what I think of as the psychic closet. People talk about decluttering their closets. This
Yes.
is the psychic closet, the stuff in our memory banks that of the times we were shamed or belittled or rejected or excluded or hurt or bullied or pressured to perform before we felt ready, embarrassed, all these kind of negative experiences that lead us to believe it's not safe to be seen. It's
Right.
not safe for us to express ourselves, that we don't feel embraced as who we are. And so what do? We hide a little bit.
Hmm.
We pull back. We stand in the shadows behind the scenes.
Yeah. And so I love that you were able to clear out this psychic closet, all that clutter from your brain, because obviously now this is what you do for a living. I mean, you're always out speaking
Always
and
out there.
getting your
And
message out.
it feels like any other task in my day.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
just
that's
like
so
one of the
encouraging.
things that I do in my work that I enjoy, and I love getting to share my ideas. I love getting to meet new people like on a podcast.
Right. Let's dive a little bit deeper into this psychic closet, because
Yep.
this was an eye opener for me. And you talk about the three types of psychic clutter that we typically have. We have our past experiences, we have messages, and negative thoughts. So unpack this a little bit more. Why is it so important to dredge up some of these old memories and tease out this psychic clutter for ourselves?
It's important to dredge and clear out and to consider all these items. It's like, taking out your old clothes and saying, does this fit?
Mm,
Do I still like this? But bigger than that, it's when we ignore those things, they don't ignore us. They are still with us. They cling to us. And they're getting triggered or activated whenever we're in a situation that feels similar to those past ones. And what happens to us is that they absorb our attention. So let's say you have a racing heart, or your hands are sweaty, or your voice is shaking, or your hands are trembling. Then you start worrying that other people are going to see that or hear it or pick up on it. And what are you doing? Are you thinking about what you're saying? No, you're trying to manage that downward spiral. You are disabling yourself
Mm-hmm.
by keeping these things around. When you clear them away, then you really have the potential to just be grounded and present and with your thoughts and focusing on how can I best express this?
Well, it's interesting because I got to about page 45 before I got the tears going. So it was really interesting for me. There were a couple of thoughts that came up, and I was just like, oh my goodness, like I still have psychic clutter after all this time. And one of those memories was being kicked out of a comedy troupe when I was in New York City. I was doing my acting stuff, and on the side, I just got really into improv theater. And I had auditioned for this big comedy troupe. I got in, things were going well, but a little subset of that group decided that they were going to do a spinoff, and we were all going to leave together and go create our own comedy troupe because we were just so great and we were better than this bigger troupe that we were with. And one by one, slowly but surely, they started deciding who they wanted to kick out. And so it was all fine when it wasn't me that they were kicking out. And then it was my turn, and I got the call and they let me go. And I just remember being so frustrated and so angry, like, you stole this opportunity from me because I could have stayed with this original comedy troupe if you didn't really think I was that great. Really, it was never a good fit for me anyway, but it was just one of those things where you felt like your power and your control was taken away from you. And then there was another memory of improv. It was actually a play that we were doing, but the guy kept improving whenever he wanted. And he would bring up one of my biggest insecurities. And I actually don't think he knew that this was my biggest insecurity, but he would always throw a line in there and say something about like my mustache or like facial hair. And in the play, like, he would just make up a line about it, and I would get so mad and so angry. And finally, on like the last night of the play, I brought this little like hand razor, and I like shaved my mustache on stage, like pretended to. And they were all like, oh, way to get him back, like that was so great. And I was like, you have no idea what this has done to me. You have no idea like what an unsafe environment this has felt for me. And like, I don't even enjoy acting in this anymore because of this guy and this one thing that he would bring up and just improv and go off script. So those were like two really big memories that were triggered for me. And I was like, wow, I got to clear these out.
Yeah, well, I hope you went into chapter 5, which
Yes.
is all of the different modalities that I like to use to clear them away. There are many paths to clearing or many paths to healing. I happen to have a certain type of a range of modalities in my back pocket at the time that I was doing this for myself. And although I have expanded upon, let's say, creative visualization, I really enjoy creative visualization ever since I read a book by Shakti Gawain in 76, I think. She came out with her book called Creative Visualization. And, back in those days, you didn't have a ton of books on these kinds of things. There was
Right.
one, and everybody who was interested read that one. And it's fun always to read someone of my age group that remembers that book and has been using that kind of work. So EFT, emotional freedom technique, was one of the big ones. And I had learned that back in 92. And I had no reason to think, oh, I need to use this for my public speaking fear. It never occurred to me because nobody had talked about past experiences being what are getting in our way. So you did mention these 3 different types of psychic clutter. Let's name them. So the first is the past experiences. And we've just said that, and you just named 2. Thank you so much for sharing those. And you can see how these things can live on in us and make us feel like, oh, I don't know. I was so embarrassed on stage when that happened. And I still carry this remorse. And we want to just clear that out. So the past experiences. Then we've got messages. So messages are a little bit different. They are the things, they're the comments that got made either to us from family, friends, society, movies, books, things like don't talk back to your elders or keep your head low and don't stand out. Or if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And these things you think, oh, well, everybody hears those as kids. Well, how many people are afraid of speaking? And who's to say that something you learned as a child isn't still something that somewhere, some part of you still believes
Yeah.
is a value that you're supposed to live by and behave by?
Hmm.
Like if you feel like don't talk back to your elders and you were a good kid, then you grow up and you are in an environment where you've got superiors, you've got authority figures, and how comfortable are you in speaking up at a board meeting or
Right.
in a, where you're in a room of people who have been at it for a long time?
Yeah, you're not gonna.
You're not gonna. Exactly. And these little things, nothing is too small to look at. You
Hmm.
might want to dismiss it, but that's a mistake. So the third thing, we've got the past experiences, we have messages, and then we've got our inner thoughts. Hello, inner thoughts,
Yep.
otherwise known as the inner critic. We may be worried about what other people think. I mean, everybody who comes to me, all my clients and students, they're worried about what other people are going to think of them. They're concerned they're going to be judged, they're going to look foolish, they're going to ruin their reputation, they're going to be attacked, like I thought I was going to be attacked.
Hmm.
But there is often no harsher critic than the one you carry around in your head. And here's the problem. We get so accustomed to the thoughts in our head that we don't realize that what we're saying to ourselves, and we don't realize what it sounds like
Yeah.
because it just doesn't flag us. It's only when we begin to say these things out loud that we have even a sense of what the energy of this voice is like. For instance, I had one client who was a COO of a tech company,
Okay.
and he co-led town halls at his company with the CEO a number of times a year. And every time he said, in his mind, he's thinking, you're not a good speaker. Look at Joe, so much better than you. He's a natural. You're dull and boring. No one's going to listen to you.
Oh, poor guy.
You messed up. Uh-oh, people, you're going to lose your reputation. People aren't going to like you anymore. All of these things that until he actually thought about it and said it out loud and heard me say it back to him, he was like,
Right.
holy moly. I mean, that's a bully's voice. And we don't realize we have that. It's so important to lift these out of our brain, bring it out to the light. If you can hear it, then you can decide, what do you want to do with it?
Oh, I think that's so powerful. Yeah.
And there are two areas around public speaking that this is amplified. One is when you watch yourself on video. And that's why in my accelerator program, I have a module in Comfy on Camera where we learn to watch ourselves on video without cringing. And we have
Yes.
a week-long process to shift this. So watching yourself on video without cringing, or if you have a performing or speaking experience where you have some remorse, that's another area where you really get to hear what is that inner voice saying. And I'm a big believer in listening to it, one, because you need to lift it out, but also because that voice is there trying to be heard. It wants attention. It wants to be healed. And the way it gets your attention is by kind of like saying things over and over and over until you hear it and you look at it. So look at what you're saying about yourself when you watch yourself on camera.
Yeah.
Look at what you are upset about after you had a conversation that didn't go so well. What is that inner voice trying to say? Make a list of those things. Because once you have it, you can say, okay, is this something that can be changed?
Yeah.
If it can be changed, Dalai Lama teaches this. If something can be changed, why be upset? So if it can be changed, then ask, well, what could I do to make a difference or to make this change? Come up with a lot of ideas. That's the same part of the voice, that part that is discerning and that does have ideas. And when we engage that part of us to be helpful and supportive and point out the next directions, then all of a sudden you don't have an inner critic anymore. You have an inner ally.
Yeah. I love that. And you do talk about this in the book. And for the first time, it really made me rethink this whole idea of the inner critic. And I think, you kind of explained it like a parent that, is punishing you, puts you in your room because maybe you ran across the street, and all they're thinking is, oh my gosh, my kid could have been a pancake, right? So they weren't doing it to be mean or to ruin your life, but to prevent you from being injured, right? There's so much love there. And so you talk about how the inner critic can actually help you and has your best interests at heart.
Yes, it really does it's there to protect you. And sometimes it does it in weird ways,
Mm.
Weird ways or unkind ways, but it does want the same thing as us. And that's why I also feel like we want it to, instead of oppose us, we want to bring it around so we're facing the same goalpost.
Yeah.
We don't want to work against ourselves. We need all the encouragement we can get, folks.
Right.
You want to be your staunchest advocate, your fiercest ally. And so engage that inner voice and harness it to be looking in the same direction as you are.
Yeah, it's very similar to the whole fear concept, right? We want to explore those fears, lean
Yes.
into those fears, uncover, why do I have this fear? Same thing with the inner critic. Okay, inner critic, what are you so worried about here? What is it that you don't like? Or what are you trying to protect me from? And then kind of buddy up with your inner critic and say, well, is this something we can fix? How can we address this so that it's good for everyone?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
I love that. That makes it so tangible, right? And it's empowering when we think of it that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, this is, you can do a chunk of this and take a huge leap forward. And it's also a practice.
Yeah. It cannot be one and done. It's a way of life, right?
Yeah,
it's something
it's a
you
way
have
of
to
life.
just do over and over. And I share that with my clients all the time, with tools like affirmations and EFT. It's like you can't just do it once and think you're cured, right?
Yes.
This has to
Yes.
be something that you repeat. I have my affirmations in the bathroom. They're on a laminated card. I say them every morning and every night before bed.
Right.
Now, I don't always do all 10 because something might be more significant for that period of my life. So I might focus on just a couple, but they're there and it's a daily part of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. You don't say, oh yeah, I did gratitudes at Thanksgiving last year.
Now everything is great in my life and I'm happy about everything. No, it's like you pop a tire, and I'm going to use this one because it just happened to me again. Driving along, got a screw or something in my tire, had to go get the tire replaced. And I'm like, okay, but hey, I have the money. It's okay. Like, I'm blessed that it wasn't something worse, right? And I'm so quickly able to shift into that gratitude attitude, but it's because I practice it regularly.
That's right. And that's why we practice, so we can shift quickly.
Yeah.
Just like you say.
So let's dive into this idea of healing, though, right? Because we all have these past experiences, and one person's trauma, may be nothing to someone else, and someone else might think something is nothing and it's someone else's trauma. So we need to have a whole set of tools in our toolbox to alleviate. But one of these that you advocated for, which I loved and appreciated, is forgiveness. Tell me more about this relationship between forgiveness and then feeling comfortable speaking.
I feel like forgiveness is a key skill for speaking comfortably. First of all, think about making mistakes. We have to expect that we're going to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. You're going to forget what you're going to say. You're going to get distracted in your mind. You're going to stumble over your words. You might say something you didn't mean to say or inaccurate. Or how do you move on? You move on by forgiving yourself quickly. So you need to have an attitude of forgiveness with ourselves for not being perfect, for not being as good as we will be in the future, because we're always growing.
Yeah.
And it's key also in letting go of all of the stuff in our psychic closet. It's key in letting go of blame. It's key in allowing ourselves not to feel like there's something wrong with us. I mean, when we have past experiences that do affect us, and I love that, how you said some experiences would affect somebody and others not.
Yeah.
What's the difference? The difference is that whether or not we had the tools and the resources at the time to navigate through that experience, feeling that we came out whole.
Mm.
But a lot of times we didn't. We didn't have the parent, the friend, the teacher, the mentor to help us get through it. Many times we kept things to ourselves, or if we did share it, it was not exactly what we needed. And so it sticks to us. And then we carry a lot of times blame towards ourselves for holding on to those things. So not
Yep.
only do we have the things, but then we have how we think about having those things.
Yeah.
The burden becomes heavier and heavier. Forgiveness, I feel, is the final letting go, the final release, the final resolution. It's not saying that, oh, I thought that was a great thing that happened. No, or you don't exonerate somebody for doing something that you felt was hurtful. But
Mhm.
what you're doing is you're saying, I don't want to carry that anymore.
Yeah.
I am releasing that. I'm letting it go. And forgiveness is our process of, at the very least, forgiving ourselves, and the very most, forgiving ourselves. Whether or not we forgive other people, letting it go from ourselves is super essential.
Yeah. And I just love that idea of like being lighter. It weighs us down so much. We're just not able to be our true authentic self when that happens.
Yes, yes. And that is actually what we're after. It's being able to just honor and accept ourselves for who we
Mhm.
are, whenever we are, and allow ourselves to enjoy that uniqueness of being like, whose life are we living?
Amen. Yeah.
This is our experience. We get to do it our way, and let's explore it and make it the best it can be.
I know. That's why we're here, right? Like, I'm just like, how can I help you rock your reinvention? How can I help you just really lean into whatever those true desires are? Because society, it's put us in a box. And I know that so many of the women I work with, they want to start a podcast. They want to go out and start speaking and getting paid for their thoughts and their ideas. But there are those things that are holding them back. Well,
Yes.
who would listen to me? Well, who am I to think that I could start a podcast? What if I run out of things to talk about? Who will listen? Right. And all the head junk, all that psychic clutter that's in our head.
Yes.
And
And
it
and
holds
those
us
things are
back.
great to know, because like, who wants to listen to me? Where did you not feel listened to?
Yep.
I'm afraid of looking foolish. Where did you feel foolish? That
Mm-hmm.
people, where were you embarrassed or were you ridiculed? Those
Yeah.
are clues and threads going back into the psychic closet that then you can bring out and say, oh yeah, dad always told me you're a loser.
Right.
Or I was on the outside of all the cool groups all the way through school. I was never in the center. So who wants to listen to me?
Mm-hmm.
These things that we don't even consider, how we get conditioned and programmed by the experiences in our lives. And everybody has it. I mean, there's no shame. And you don't
Yeah.
have to go to therapy for 2 years, talk therapy. That's only one. I think, unfortunately, people think of talk therapy as the only modality for healing the past.
Oh,
And I think
yeah.
that's what get people from feeling this willingness and eagerness even to clear their past stuff, because they think, I don't want to go for 2 years of therapy. Well, I don't want to work with people for 2 years either on their stuff. And you don't have to. That's the point. You don't have to.
Right.
There's so many tools. When I realized I had stuff from the past, now granted, I live with myself. So it wasn't just like a thought from one day to the next. I actually did all this work that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But in 5 days, my fear was gone.
That's
That was 10
amazing.
years ago.
That is amazing.
And here's the thing, on the other side, you find yourself, you find you, and you get to explore what that even means to be naturally you. I had felt so conditioned that I didn't even know, what does it mean to be me? What does it
Right.
mean to be naturally me? Is it the inhibited me? Is it the me that's used to hiding? No. It's the
Mhm.
potential me. And how do I even know what that is? Well, you got to start experimenting and
Oh, and
playing
it's so
around.
exciting.
Yeah,
That's
it's
such a fun
fun.
season, right? Like when you get
Exactly.
on the other side of that fear.
Yes. Yes. And that's why I say, do it now. Get
Yeah.
over it now, because then you got the rest of your life on the other side. I found it at 60. Thank goodness. But if I
Right.
found it at 30 or 40 or 50, I would have had that much more time.
And it's so easy to get the book. I mean, get the book. She gives you all the tips to lighten the limelight. I mean, all the modalities that she's talking about, and some that we haven't even mentioned yet. I love that you brought in dance. I love that you talk about mental rehearsing and that idea of visualization to help you improve your performance. You know, there were so many tools and techniques. So you don't have to spend 2 years. You can just spend a weekend reading this book and start dissecting some of this stuff.
Yes, yes, and people do feel different after reading the book. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
some people will read the book and they find 2 or 3 things and it makes a definite improvement.
Hmm.
Other people read the book and they say, "I want Linda's help. I'm all for that too. You know, I'm here,
Right.
reach out." And then, I have programs or private coaching that help walk you through it and handhold you. Or you can listen to the Delight in the Limelight podcast, which the first season is all, what's in the book in a Cliff Note version. But you do not have to suffer with this. You don't have to feel stuck. You can break through. And the thing is, speaking confidence is just one kind of confidence. But when you take care of the
Mhm.
stuff for your speaking confidence, you'll feel confident in so many other areas. I can't tell you the number of people who I've worked with who said, "I know we're working on getting comfy on camera, but I'm having a much better time with my spouse because
Yes.
I'm finally able to speak up in our relationship. I'm
Yeah.
doing better with my parents because I am defining my boundaries better." And it's not even that they've consciously worked on those things, but they've healed these past experiences. So they
Mhm.
have access to more of their worldly wisdom that they've gathered through all the experience of living.
Yeah, and it spills over into all the other aspects of your life.
Hmm.
And it's not just confidence, right? One of the things you talk about in the book that I love is the importance of self-regard.
Mm,
And sometimes when you hear those things, you think, oh, self love. And it's such a buzzword now that seems to just have defaulted to mani petty on one end of the spectrum and an inflated ego on the other, which neither of those are going to really give you self regard and self love. But, so for this, it feels like self regard is so authentic and self honoring. And so, just maybe quickly talk to us about how you help women improve their self regard through this process.
well, it's the probably the opposite track of the critic. So,
Hmm.
like, if you're watching yourself on video, what are the things you like?
Right.
And that's part of the work that we do. And what's fascinating is that people can watch a video through once and they can write 10 things down that they don't like. You ask them to do the same number of things they do like, they have to watch it 3 or 4 times,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
fine. That's where you begin. Positive self regard is being able to look at what you do and say, "Oh, I really like that. I'm proud of myself. I really like that in me." We learn this in various different ways by watching yourself on video and pointing out to yourself what you appreciate, looking in the mirror, doing the same thing.
Hmm.
Body image, like saying, "What do you appreciate about your body?" Especially like function, like I used to have a thing about my nose. Mom always wanted me to get plastic surgery because it was very common when I was growing up as a Jewish girl, and I have like a rounded nose, to straighten the nose out. So I resisted her, but I always felt uncomfortable after that. In fact, I used to wear long hair hanging down over my face so people couldn't see my profile.
Yep.
And then as I was doing this kind of work, as I in these recent 10 years, I was thinking how my husband suffers with allergies so many times of the year. He
Mhm.
can't breathe. I have the most amazing nose.
Yes.
The function, I just love breathing. It feels so good. I very rarely suffer with a stuffed up nose. I love my nose.
Yeah.
Think about the functioning of your body when you have body image problems. Think about what is working well.
Yeah.
The things that, going back to gratitude, that you can smell, you can touch textures, you can see colors, you can appreciate the feeling of moving your body around and what that
Mhm.
feels like. I mean, there's so much that we can focus our attention on and appreciate rather than focusing on what we don't, which kind of like closes us down, makes us stiff and contracted. So positive regard is finding those areas where we can train and practice being our biggest supporter, our staunchest advocate. What I have done for years, and I don't always do this, just like you say, every day is a little different, but I will often end my day thinking of 5 things I'm proud of from the day. Nothing is too small. It could be that I stepped outside and put my face in the sun, or I washed my hair, or I made a good meal, or it could be that I led a class today and I loved how it went. And then I do 5 things that I forgive myself for. Again, making forgiveness a practice.
Yes.
I forgive myself for forgetting to call that person back or not getting to this on my to-do list yet again. I forgive myself for, I don't know, being late for this meeting. Whatever it is, because we want to move into each moment and each day with as little burden from the past as possible.
Yeah, that's a great practice. Thank you for sharing that tip. And I hope that you will take that down, like write yourself a note and give this a try at home, because these are the little things that you can do every day, but they have massive, massive impact on you. It seems like, oh, really? Is that going to just write down 5 things? Yes, just literally write down 5 things and it will change your outlook over the course of the days, the weeks, the months, and you'll just start to transform sometimes without even realizing it.
Absolutely.
I love that. Well, I could chat with you all day, Linda. This has been so great. So many tangible tips that we can implement right now. It wouldn't be Rock Your Reinvention if I didn't ask you if you could say one thing to the woman listening who knows she wants to make a change. She wants to get out there and start speaking, but doesn't know how to get started. What would you say?
I would say play around first. I would say grab your camera, grab your phone, and start recording yourself on video talking. Don't even show it to anyone, but just get started sharing your ideas and then start sharing them. Maybe on podcasts, maybe networking. These are the speaking that you do on stage is simply an outcome of all the other speaking that you're doing in your life.
Very true. You got to start somewhere. So start small.
Yep.
You're not going to make it on the big stage on your first go around. So
have dinner dates, meeting new people. And what you are sharing with that person is stuff that may go into your keynote.
I love that. And that's something we can all do. That is actionable right now. So I hope you will take Linda up on that. If people are interested or they want to go get more, where can they find you?
Well, my book is available on all the online bookstores.
Yep.
Otherwise, come to my website. Delight in the Limelight is the name of the book and my podcast. Come to my website at lindaugelow.com, Ugelow, and you will see there a speaker preparation checklist for the things that you could and should do before you speak anywhere. Because it's not just preparing what you want to say, but it's preparing your body, your mind, and your voice. Your voice is your speaking instrument. You want to make sure that your voice is ready to go whenever you open up your mouth.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that freebie with everyone. You got to go take Linda up on that. I hope that one of the things you write down tonight, Linda, for what went really well today was this podcast, because you absolutely killed it. We're so thankful for all of your wisdom and sharing all these nuggets with us. Thank you for overcoming your fear of speaking and helping us do it too.
It's been a real pleasure, Karen. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're inspired to take action by committing to one of the tips or strategies we talked about in today's episode. If you want more accountability and support, I've got your back. Book a complimentary Empowered Exit Strategy call today. Visit KarenFreeland.com to learn more and book your 45-minute session. Until next time, stay fabulous.